we're all in process, and so I want everybody to know that the first thing he said is to identify the problem. That's the first thing. You can't fix it if you can't diagnose it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So once you know it, then you can go to work to try to find a solution for your particular trauma. All of us have been traumatized by this system, but your particular trauma may necessitate a different protocol. But we all know that where to go for our source. Our source is the Word. Our source is the Word. And so we're going back to the Word to try to fix. It's the truth that makes us free. All right, we're going to go into our lesson this morning and see if we can get Willie a little bit freer. You know, you got to work on Willie in stages, man. This stuff is deeply rooted in our subconscious, and some of us don't even know it's there. It's so part of us that we don't even know it's there. We think it's us. We don't realize we've been programmed, and so we want to look at the letter a little bit closer this morning, and we're going to. Sister's going to read. You may start.
Okay. You must use the female versus the male and the male versus the female. I see that's a book there. Do Black women hate Black men? Wow. The attack on the Black family in particular, and now the family in general, is key to the ruling classes creating a world that looks to the governing authorities as patriarchs. However, in order to enjoy these benefits, the man must be kept out of the home. This was already the mark of the beast system in play by connecting the economic survival to the Black family to singleness and perpetual fornication, while at the same time psychologically emasculating the Black father in the minds of his woman and child. By elevating the Black female and dismissing the image and role of the Black male, Mr. Lynch and the elite have removed the proper function of each parent's role. By empowering the Black female, who like most women are most concerned with security and protection, and now the dominant man in her life is now the government whose image is the white male. The Black father is now relegated to a subordinate position and is only useful for breeding and companionship. This is why in the Black Hebrew community in particular, we hear the declaration, "I don't need a man." And just as on the plantation, the sanctity of the marriage bed is defiled by the adultery and rape of the Black female slave and the bringing in a dominant male to insert his genetics in the Hebrew female. And the Black male has now been reduced in the eyes of his woman and children to a secondary position. Did I read that right? Yeah. Secondly, her food, clothing, and shelter is also provided for by a man or system outside of the home, making her more loyal to that which sustains her and her children than to her own God-given family structure. The scriptures predicted this day would come when it said.
Okay, we'll look at that text in a minute. Any comments?
An abundance, that's, I'm not going to cut anybody off, but an abundance came out of that, because that is a great summarization of quite a few generations of our shared experience here in this country as Hebrew, or what they call Black people. And just my experience personally as a man who is striving to lead my family. I remember there was a time when, growing up, I didn't know anything about social services or the need for them or why they existed, different things like that. But coming out of the military, and we found ourselves in a situation where we were homeless, we were unhoused, and there was a season where we had to go down and apply for benefits. And I had never seen like the movies like I later learned about, like Christine and things like that, where there was this system in place that supported singleness, even though I had seen it perpetuated, being raised up in in an atmosphere where the projects were mostly led by single women and there really weren't many men in the house and things like that. But I remember going down and just there was like when before Britt and I got married, where she had to go down and she shared with me just how um I ain't gonna say humiliating, but just debilitating it was to have to disclose all your information to those people. And I remember when she came home, it was just something in me that was like, I'm not about to subject my at the time in my mind, she was my wife, but I'm not about to subject her to this. So when I went down after we got married, a little bit after that, we ended up, we were married in 2014. And I just remember being like one of only like 3 men that were in there that were applying for like social benefits. And even the way that the system is perpetuated when you have to ask or apply for benefits or whatever the case is, it's just like a feeling of um inferiority, right? But the Most High has been gracious that the wealth of this nation can even provide things like that that exist for those that do have that provision or that need, as we come into ways that allow us to operate um, without the dependency on this nation or its handouts or its benefits or its resources or whatever the case is. But there is also a mentality that for those that don't know any better, that this is just the standard operating procedure. This is as far as we can exceed or think to even um, basically this is the highest that we think that we can see for ourselves or hope for ourselves, because this has been the game plan. We were talking about that playbook for a few generations. I know even in my bloodline, my family, that was the playbook. And when you look around in lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, projects, whatever have you, that's the way it has been. Like we have been penalized for having the audacity to try to man up and lead our families. But the one thing that I'm grateful that the Most High has been able to do is to, and it hasn't been without even getting some eyebrows raised or feelings of indignation from other people as to what y'all doing, or why would you want to give benefits back or resources back or anything like that. It's because as long as we're comfortable, and these are just the things that the Most High put on me, even from going down and applying and having the audacity to navigate this journey of being so social dependent upon social benefits, is as we increase our faith, it puts us in a position to where we know that there's greater that we can hope for or subscribe for. Because I remember when we even started our business, there were certain things and certain provisions that we couldn't do when we were in certain situations that we were going to be penalized if we had any modicum of success anyway. But there's just this second class inferiority complex that does come from that type of existence that is not really spoken about in large part, because if we don't understand that there's a play being put in against us, if you don't, nobody ever told you about the Willie Lynch letter, or if you never read it, we heard about it, but we were at the peak of it coming up in the 80s and 90s, when we even had programs like, the actual food stamp booklets, and before they switched us to the card and made it even more convenient and things like that. But I found myself having to explain to some people, like, how how can you as a man be the one that apply? And I had to explain to him, well, as a husband, when you just read the policies and you have the audacity to go down there and account for not only just your presence being in the home, but letting it be known that you're asserting yourself as a man, either they're gonna have to deal with you as the head, the protector of your household, your home, or they can have their benefits back if it means that they have to go through my wife or my woman, as something like that. But that's basically what I'm trying to summarize. But when I was reading that, it just brought me back to those moments where it was debilitating. And I was thinking, and I pray to Yah, I said, I'm thankful that we're able to get this, but Father, I know that there has to be greater in store for us. I know that this isn't the existence that you relegated us to. And just through the sheer prayers of the righteous availing much. I can share with y'all even this morning that there is so much hope that's in store for us when we really strive to get back into alignment in our hearts. It wasn't until we made a decision to want to have our family structure in order where we weren't even just comfortable just being, living out of alignment physically as boyfriend and girlfriend, unmarried to what we were demonstrating to our children. So I just wanted to share that this morning, y'all. That's it. Thank you.
Hey, that was good, brother. Appreciate that testimony and that sharing that experience. Anybody else?
Pastor,
Yes.
I remember, I think shortly after me and Deborah got married, I think she had to go reapply for food stamps, or what I wanted to do is if we gonna do this together, so I tried to know all the money, we put our money together, and so we're gonna apply for whatever benefits. Thing had to do something with her child support with our first child, but we went down there, and the lady told us, no, I was trying to acknowledge that we were married, and the lady told us that you can't get nothing as long as he's on the docket. And so, they put me out the home, but I had to, I allowed them so she could continue to get child support and all, and food stamps. But that was something that lady actually flat out told us, say I couldn't be on there. And then still they got me, they acknowledged, they had me on there as husband, but there's some kind of tricky way they did it that they do know that she's married. And because of that, she couldn't get as much food stamp as other ladies that had the same amount of children who were single.
Mm-hmm.
She had to apply for head.
Huh?
She had to apply as the head.
Okay. In social services is really social engineering. And what we have in the Hebrew community is we have compassion under Torah. First of all, when you're in a bind, your first level of defense is your family, your tribe, your clan, and then you move up the line. And then the second thing is you don't just sit back and receive. You put something in, some effort in. Sometimes that may require you pledging some asset, some of your land or something for a season to engender a loan, which would in the year of Jubilee, of course, everything goes back to you and your family structure, or it may engender that you go and glean the corner of a field, that was sown by your brother who's maybe doing a little better. But we have stopgaps. There are ways for us to help one another without taking away your dignity and disrespecting your function, your role as the head of the family. This other service is actually, it snipes you. It's psychological assassination.
Mm-hmm.
And so in receiving those benefits, you in essence are eliminated from the family structure as a head. You're no longer the head. It is antichrist. And antichrist, it simply means a substitution. And so when you take the man and you put something else in its place, that's antichrist, whether that be the government or that be Jody. It's a form of adultery. And when I say adultery, I don't mean that you have to physically give up your bodily functions, but you psychologically do. It displaces the honor that is due to the father in the family, and so it destroys the structure. It also sets in place a demonic influence over that home.
It reminds me of a scene, when I cut you off, Pastor. I don't know if y'all, many seen that movie Dead Presidents back in the day, where when he came home from the war, he wasn't able to, do the things that he was able to do in the neighborhood. Opportunist was always available because there's always an undercurrent, under economy that's under the book, off the books. And just that thing that in his positioning kind of demoted him within the household. So that's another visual description for those that remember that, that, like you said, that other form of antichrist, where it's not necessarily the one that got to take the mark and do all of that, but it's just all these things that come up against the established way that allows us to have that dignity and have that honor within the structure that he's established for us.
Yeah, and I think, and the fact that you came back from the military should have afforded you special privileges.
That's right.
You were creating safety for that system to exist, and for it to then take you and be unthankful. You it's like Malcolm X said, "Man, you my enemy, man. Them people ain't never shot at me."
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because they never done nothing to me.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for that input. Thank you for all of you being here this morning once again.